back to the 2000 campaign when Bill Clinton wanted to campaign for Al Gore, and Al Gore said, "Thank you, but no thanks." Here he comes.
How are you feeling?
Mr. President, how are you feeling?
How are you feeling?
How are you feeling?
Well, you can come talk to us.
Come on.
How are you feeling since you dropped out of the race, sir?
How are you feeling about Harris's campaign?
Can Harris beat Trump? Can Harris beat Trump, Mr. President?
Well, they gave it the old college try. They tried to get him over under the wing to say a few things.
Our president's voice. Joe, I know you're still on the call.
I don't know what it is. I know its hallmark, which is secrecy. Secrecy is the hallmark of lying. So if you want to know, is someone lying? Well, I don't know. Is he hiding something? Well, then he's lying, right? So they're lying.
Well, there's a lot of questions here, and I talked about this in yesterday's video right at the end, and I said there would be a video out on this. So we got to ask the question, how in the world were they able to pull off this coup on Joe Biden? And to go on top of that, why in the world were there so many rumors about him possibly being dead yesterday? Now, the guy who threw the tweet up earlier from the very first clip that you saw of Biden getting out of the SUV and getting into Air Force One, that guy posted it was one of those tweets with a clip, and he was basically saying, what do you notice about Joe Biden here? What do you notice about him? I want to go ahead and tell you guys right now that even if something looks fishy, there are people out there that will post stuff like, oh, I don't know, what do you notice funny about Taylor Swift here? What do you notice funny about this person here? Those types of accounts are taking advantage of the Twitter monetization program, meaning that if you get enough engagement and people get enough comments, you get paid money for it. Oftentimes, they're great big giant nothing burgers. They're scams. I mean, I'm trying to show you guys a couple of accounts that are like that. There's also accounts that even do the political game. One such account is called Proud Elephant. I would just unfollow that account because it's really a trash pot account. But still, though, at the same time, though, what exactly happened here and how exactly did we get to this point? Well, here's how we got to this. Earlier this month, I want to say it was July the 5th, Biden was in Las Vegas, Nevada. He was doing an event for the NAACP, and it was reported that he had had a medical emergency on Air Force One. It was reported by Laura Loomer. Now, some people are going to look at that and say, take it with a grain of salt. However, Laura has posted some things before that did turn out to be accurate or would later on be proven to be mostly true. I'm not going to go through every single circumstance, but there have also been some times where what she has posted has not been proven. So, yeah, you kind of sort of got to take it with a grain of salt, even though it's definitely interesting to look into. However, the initial reports that came out, this is what set a lot of people off. And of course, people like Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones have been correct more so recently, especially Alex Jones. But Tucker Carlson bit into this, and this is what he got.
I'm reading this cold. I got a weird lead on a story people ought to look into. I got a call from a source close to Las Vegas Metro Police. The official story was that Biden's trip was cut short last week due to COVID. However, according to this source, U.S. Secret Service informed Las Vegas Metro that there was an emergency situation involving Joe Biden and to close necessary streets so that POTUS could be transported immediately to University Medical, which they began to do in earnest. Then mysteriously, there was a stand-down order, and the Secret Service informed local Vegas PD that they were going to medevac POTUS to Johns Hopkins, which they presume meant fly him back east as soon as possible. Apparently, the rumor mill in the police department was that Joe Biden was dying or already dead, possibly. I didn't think too much about this lead. It seemed too wild to be true, but given that Joe Biden has been out of public sight for days and dropped out of the race via an X post, and his brother James indicated health was a factor, I'm beginning to grow more curious.
It was a post that was put out by Charlie Kirk that originally got people kind of speculating on what was going on. However, the thing is this right here, going back to what let's just say this right here. The post that was put up by Charlie Kirk was actually a retread, or maybe he got the party late. I'm not trying to accuse Charlie of stealing from somebody. That's just not what I'm going to do. But it was actually Laura Loomer. Now, the thing is this right here. There was also other reports out there that the health scare occurred on Air Force One. There's also other indications that, or other reports that suggest that Air Force One has its own little hospital inside of it, which would not surprise me. It is a plane that does house the president for traveling, but still, at the same time, there's definitely a lot here that does not look, how do I say, on the level. But I figured I would edit that part in before we get to the next part because obviously you guys know me. I'll sometimes come back in and re-edit something in a little bit later, but let's continue. There's also this little bit, an article that I'll leave from the Gateway Pundit, I'll leave in the description box. So obviously some stuff about this or something is obviously going on. And of course, nobody saw Biden for a while. But then again, at the same time, though, they also announced that he had COVID, which I think is kind of odd that he had it for like the fourth or fifth time. There was even a tweet sent out from, I guess, this doctor saying we just gave him his newest set of Plavix. I can't really pronounce it. I don't think it's Plavix, but there's another medication that starts with a P that I guess is being used to treat it. And of course, people immediately started throwing all kinds of theories around, especially given the fact that Joe Biden's resignation was done over Twitter. He did endorse Kamala Harris, and people automatically assumed that that right there was probably something that was drawn up by his staff and was probably fake. There was even this question of the signature. Now, the thing about this signature, and that was Juanita Broderick who brought that up, or maybe she retweeted it from somebody else. I'm pretty sure it was something that got retweeted around. I'm putting as much of this stuff as I can in the B-roll footage for you guys. If you guys want to pause it and actually look at it, it does seem to me like it is pretty daggone fishy. But before we go any further, I want to just go ahead and say this, because obviously there is more to this interview between Tucker Carlson and Jack Posobiec to talk about, but I want to go ahead and say this. The plan of this particular administration or political party was to use Joe Biden's corporeal form to get over. As a matter of fact, there was even an article in The Atlantic back in 2020 called Joe Biden, All We Need Is Your Corporeal Form. Obviously, their plan was to put Heels Up Harris in office at some point in time, and therefore she'll be controlled as well. We'll talk about her tomorrow in video number 2, and then we'll talk about this democracy BS they keep on throwing out, probably tomorrow or Thursday as well. I'm not going to be here. I'm going to be out of town, so I'm obviously making every single video on Tuesday. Unless, of course, something comes up, I may push one video out to Thursday. Still, though, at the same time, though, that was always the plan, always the goal, and they know that they cannot just rely on Harris, especially given the fact that all the polling data suggests that she would get absolutely curb stomped by Donald Trump. However, there's also one more thing you've got to understand. Right now, Harris is getting a bit of a boost, okay? And that boost, of course, I think is designed to offset Trump's RNC boost, which, of course, is not really going to matter a whole lot once we get a little bit closer, and yet Kamala Harris is set to get another boost come August after the DNC if it does not go completely, totally off the rails, especially given the fact that, of all people, Black Lives Matter just put up on their Twitter page that they do not want Kamala Harris. They want an actual open primary. Now, they may want Harris, but they still want an open primary, basically citing that, yeah, this right here is not exactly the way democracy works. But we'll talk more about that one in the Thursday video, because obviously there are some people out there who are running away from the left because of how they pulled this off. That being the undemocratic way that they chose to usurp Joe Biden. There's a reason why it is that the thumbnail looks like Julius Caesar, even though we already know that Joe Biden is not Julius Caesar. But still, at the same time, though, a lot of people are pissed off. Like I said, that video either may come out tomorrow night or it may come out on Thursday. It all depends on what time I get back from the doctor tomorrow. But still, though, at the same time, though, it leaves the whole, it leaves the question of who to trust here. Well, let's go ahead and watch the rest of this.
COVID or something else has been more serious than reported. If anyone with Las Vegas Metro has information, please email freedom@charliekirk.com. I want to hear if there's more to the official story than what they're telling us.
Well, I'm sure Las Vegas Metro would be just as open as forthcoming as they were during the during the October shooting.
Yeah,
in 2017,
the worst mass shooting in American history,
which is never spoken of again.
They tried to drive me out of a camera position while I was doing a story on it. Yeah, clearly there's something
known for being open and forthcoming.
Yeah, like the city itself. Clearly something is going on here. Obviously, I don't know what it is. I know its hallmark, which is secrecy. Secrecy is the hallmark of lying. So if you want to know, is someone lying? Well, I don't know. Is he hiding something? Well, then he's lying. right?
These
So
right here are
they're
points
lying.
that I think are pretty daggone valid, and I'm not the biggest Posobiec fan in the world. As a matter of fact, I think that Posobiec has pulled our leg a few too many times in the past. But still, at the same time, though, this is definitely something that's not trustworthy. I don't have any actual proof. I'm not going to throw any little accusations out there, but I think that Tucker's on to something. Now, I've had some issues with Tucker recently, but for the most part, I still typically tend to come on the same side with Tucker Carlson, and it's just some certain small differences, but still, I've always felt Tucker Carlson was pretty good at what he does. The thing is this right here, I think that we're right to be concerned about what's going on because let's be honest, there was a period here where we did not have a president or did not know who the hell our leader was. We still, to a certain extent, do not know who our leader is right now, even though obviously the vice president is running for president. And of course, as of the time of recording this, she has now been named the presumptive nominee because the delegates did in fact vote in her favor. But go back to what I said in the recent clip about how it was that Black Lives Matter, of all people, are not endorsing the black candidate or not endorsing the black woman. Strange, but don't worry, we'll talk more about that one in the Kamala Harris video that I'm going to be doing about how she's having problems getting any additional support and how it is going to play out probably this presidential cycle. But still, though, the point is this here. The situation looks fishy as hell, and it looks like somebody may have actually launched a coup. Now, there's one more thing that does need to be said before I get to the Beanie Man, and it's this here. There was a memo that was sent out immediately by Joe Biden's presidential staff, and of course, it was saying that they were going to be relegating certain duties to each member of the cabinet, which I find very odd that they would do this, when in reality, anybody with common sense probably already knew that these people were already doing the duties anyways. It's almost like these people have been caught in a massive lie, and they're just now trying to tell the truth and say, oh, this right here is what the hell we've been doing the entire time. But they're telling it to a crowd of people that already know that they've been lying to them the entire time. Now, really quick, before I go any further, I'm going to be referencing this video that you guys are seeing here in the sidecar that's recently went viral from a guy who is a two-time Democrat voter who is now deciding to vote for Donald Trump. And he laid out exactly the case, the most perfect case I've ever heard for anybody of sane, rational mind that understands that we as a nation have been getting lied to by the current Democratic Party and have been getting lied to not only by the current Democratic Party, but by the mainstream media itself. And they haven't been honest about this situation too, so just let that sink in. But there's some people out there who are speculating that this right goes all the way back to the tape recording or the testimony that Joe Biden gave about his classified documents. So with that being said, now we enter the Beanie Guy.
And there's a strong possibility that we ain't seen nothing yet. You think 2020 was crazy? Oh boy. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what their plans are. Threats of illegal immigrants voting, fears, I should say. We don't know. The polls have Trump up 2 points on Kamala Harris. She is younger than Donald Trump and Joe Biden. And now all of a sudden you're hearing Trump is too old. He's too old. Kamala Harris is 59. She's the candidate for us. I love this about Democrats. They're like, we don't need democracy. The political elites can choose our candidate for us. Uh-huh. Right. Well, that was the game plan. Take a look at this. And then we've got the statement from Kamala Harris on securing the nomination. Operatives, the very highest levels of the Democratic Party, threatened Biden with forcibly removing him from office unless he stepped down. The well-orchestrated palace coup to stop the faltering president from seeking re-election had been in place for weeks. But stubborn Biden fought it every step of the way, a source close to the Biden family.
Okay, so you guys saw about 56 seconds there, and of course we're about to get a theory about how it was that the testimony that Joe Biden gave over his classified documents that were at his house in Delaware, you're about to get a theory on that, which of course is not going to come from me, just a simple counteraction to it, not trying to demean Tim or anything like that. I just don't fully agree with him in this case. But still, though, it's very interesting to listen to. So the New York Post, they got a hold of this, and they got a hold of this information. And of course, the information that they got a hold of was top Democrats were calling for Joe Biden to step down, or else they were going to give him the 25th Amendment. I don't think that was the case. I think what simply happened is that the 25th Amendment was something that was kicked around, but they probably never really threatened him with it. Biden himself, and of course this right here is the theory about this, is that Biden himself is obviously suffering from massive mental decline. Oh, duh, we already know that. The question is to what extent. at what point in time could the media no longer cover it up? Well, it more than likely was that debate performance. You see, that debate performance was set up to actually work against former President Trump, because we all know how Trump is. He's going to interrupt, he's going to speak, and of course they put these rules in place. And I remember saying that the rules would actually benefit Trump because it would actually force him to stay on point. I think what simply happened was that they got to the point to where they could not cover it up no more. They could not lie to people anymore because Biden was so daggone bad. However, that's also the narrative, because people also forget that Trump himself was actually pretty good during that debate. Still, though, at the same time, though, it does leave something that I put up at the very, very beginning of the video that makes this entire situation look a lot worse when you actually look at it, and it's this right here.
Our president's voice. Joe, I know you're still on the call.
I don't know if you guys caught it or not. I just don't know if you actually caught on to that, but let me play it one more time.
Our president's voice. Joe, I know you're still on the call.
Last week, I did a video on Joe Biden calling into MSNBC, having a conversation with Joe Scarborough, and I asserted in that video that I think what happened was that they were listening to a recording. Very, very possible this entire thing was planned. So that right there actually could give credence to Tim Pool's theory that you're about to hear in a second. But the reason why I'm bringing it up now is because it sounds pretty obvious, like she was about to say recording. It's not hard to record somebody's voice, or it's not hard to get somebody to tell you something in a certain state. And if you listen to the full thing, you would think that maybe Joe Biden was struggling. Maybe it's possible AI could have been involved, but I don't think it was. I think it was probably something that, quite frankly, he was forced into actually, recording. He was forced into it. Probably a bit of a humiliation ritual. And obviously Jill Biden, who's going to be on the cover of Vogue next month, is probably not happy about this. But about that theory, let's watch this all the way through. It's a little over a minute, but let me tell you what I think really happened in this case.
And is not dead. What if he's actually just old, but largely okay? Now, we know his brain don't be working all that well, and he's not too good with words and stuff. But maybe Joe Biden, while he is suffering from cognitive decline, a bit of confusion here and there, what if he's just fine, a little tired? And what's really happening is they said, you're dropping out, and we're orchestrating it this way. What if the truth is Joe Biden's actually sitting at home in a rocking chair, really did call in a Kamala Harris's campaign, and they're just telling him, you're going to say what we tell you to say or else? What if the reason they won't release the Robert Hur tapes is because, what if he's just fine, a little tired? And what's really happening is they said, you're dropping out, and we're orchestrating it this way. What if the truth is Joe Biden's actually sitting at home in a rocking chair, really did call in a Kamala Harris's campaign, and they're just telling him, you're going to say what we tell you to say or else? What if the reason they won't release the Robert Hur tapes is because Hur says, listen to me, Joe. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to go home. You're going to be with your family. You're going to enjoy a nice tall glass of lemonade in a rocking chair on your front porch. Otherwise, you're going to be criminally charged, same as Donald Trump, and you will spend what little time you have left fighting and having your legacy destroyed. Now, I don't...
It sounds very interesting, especially given the fact that there are people out there on Twitter who share and repost videos of what looks like something dangling off of Joe's ear, which might make you think somebody's wearing a mask. I mean, I always wondered if it was true from the film Dave. I always wondered if it was possible that each person had doubles, but then again, at the same time, being an Iraq war vet who was informed of Saddam Hussein having doubles while he was in charge there because of all the paranoia around him, it would not surprise if we don't partake in the same thing. However, I don't think it went the way Tim says it was. I think her testimony was rather damning. It wasn't so much rather damning, it was pretty freaking bad for Joe. They basically came out and said that Joe Biden was an old man who means well but should not be the president. And that obviously, people finally saw it. People saw it on display. And you've got one faction of people who are saying at this moment in time that this right here was obviously a lie. You've been lying to us. And you've got another faction of people saying, well, I don't care. Just keep Donald Trump out of office. Those right there are the people who, by the way, are lost. Okay, they're lost to society. They're lost to us. You're not going to get them back. Okay. What Yuri Bezmenov said about evidence being presented to somebody so strong that it could not change somebody's mind was 100% correct. I advise you guys go watch anything and everything Yuri Bezmenov related. But that right there brings us right back to what exactly happened. I'm going to play this last part, and I'm going to go ahead and give you guys my final conclusion on what I think really happened to old Joe.
But, you get the point. They said, Biden, we will destroy you. We won't just remove you. We will destroy you. So Biden says, okay. Or what if? The other direction. They said, Biden, you will drop out or else. And Biden went, then or else. And then he suffers a stroke. I don't know. They say part of the elaborate strategy to remove Biden from the race, as he announced in a shocking letter posted on next Sunday, was allowing him to debate Republican candidate Donald Trump last month on live TV in Atlanta. During the car crash 90-minute debate, Biden appeared confused, slack-jawed, and at one point froze up, with his performance turning the tide against him. They had it all planned out. The debate was a setup to convince Democrats that he couldn't run for president. As calls for him to bow out mounted, Biden insisted he would continue, but party bigwigs threatened to invoke the 25th Amendment to the Constitution.
It's a cover story. Like anything else involving the media, it's never the truth. I think what happened in this case was simply we could not use Joe no more than what we already had. The cat was already out of the bag. They felt confident and supreme enough that they could, get a guy with a 37% approval rating over the finish line the exact same way. They're going to tell you that they can get a person who's got the highest unfavorables of any vice president since Dick Cheney, a man who actually shot someone in the face, the same exact tactic they're going to use to try to tell you that they can get her over the finish line. They could not run Joe out there anymore, and that right there is the reason why. It is they chose to stage this little coup. And yes, it was a coup. I'm pretty sure Joe Biden did not make this decision on his own. I think that there were some threats involved, but probably not the 25th Amendment. I do think Tim is on to something about Joe Biden's legacy because he keeps on talking about his legacy, even though his legacy is really not that good. I mean, his legacy is working with Klansmen and eulogizing Robert Byrd and also introducing the 94 crime bill, which locked up a lot of black men and also at the exact same time telling you that he did not want his grandchildren going to school in a racial jungle. So I agree with Tucker that these people are not being honest, definitely. I also agree with parts of what Tim has got to say, but not that he's fine, but that the party probably said, look, we're going to ruin your legacy when you get out. How would they do that? They would do that on networks like, say, CNN, through documentaries to say the death of the Democratic Party, what went wrong in 2024. They'd obviously put all the blame on Joe. They might even make movies about that. I think I even joked about that the other day, that Rob Reiner would probably make a movie about Joe Biden in the fall of the Democratic Party. And I mean, who they would cast to play Joe? Probably Ed Harris. They might be able to get away with that, even though they obviously cast him to play John McCain in the film Game Change. I think that film was a bunch of crap. I'll probably even do a piece on that in the future, especially when I create the channels. But I think that that's what they chose to do, was they chose to go the humiliation route more than anything else, because these people, and I mean these people, I mean his family, they live off Joe Biden. However, there's something that I said in one of the videos that I posted yesterday, and it's that Joe Biden did not resign for a reason. You see, Hunter Biden has got a trial coming up where he's going to be convicted. Okay, Joe's got to pardon him twice, 2 separate pardons. He may have to pardon him a third time, you never know. It does make me wonder, however, why it was that they waited till now to do it, and that right there is what tells me more and more and more that what happened in this case was they got to the point where they could not drag Joe over anymore. They inserted Kamala at literally the perfect timing for this, but of course, there's a lot of coalitions. You guys saw one already, BLM, that are saying, no, we demand an open primary, and this also includes Barack Hussein Obama, who's demanding an open primary. Even though David Plouffe and David Axelrod and a lot of others are telling their voters that they can win, that right there being the Democrat voters, that Kamala Harris can get elected, when anybody with half a brain can obviously see that there's no way in hell this woman gets elected given her unfavorability. She's actually got higher unfavorables, not only more unfavorable than former Vice President Dick Cheney, who I got to remind people shot somebody in the face, but she's also got a much, much higher unfavorable than Donald Trump, who actually has higher favorables than her. Basically, in a nutshell, what I think happened here was that they got to the point where they could not drag Joe Biden any further. And before it got too daggone late, they chose to go ahead and cut the cord right then, and they used legacy as their method of attack on him and on his family itself. But you guys, please tell me what you think in the comments section. With that right there being said, please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign off in the comment section, and I'll see you guys later.